Not since the crisis in 2015 has Europe seen images quite like this. The Deputy Prime Minister describes it as an invasion.
Turning overseas, about 100 migrants are missing in the Mediterranean off Libya.
Almost 3,000 have drowned this year. Now some 500,000 and more, as we know, are coming.
Thousands of people flee war and poverty each year, risking everything to cross the sea. Smugglers adapt as Europe closes its borders and lives are lost. Is this a humanitarian failure or a security crisis? The fight for control is raging, but who is actually winning? For a very long time, the Mediterranean Sea has served as a bridge connecting continents, cultures, and civilizations. It was a center of international trade, saw the rise and fall of empires, and is currently one of the most hazardous migratory routes in the globe in the 21st century. Europe has been grappling with the problem of border security and humanitarian disasters for decades. Every year, thousands of migrants and refugees try to cross the Mediterranean, turning the area into a battlefield for political disputes, humanitarian organizations, coast guards, and smugglers. How do so many people put their lives in danger to cross these waters? What steps are being made to prevent human trafficking and migration? Is the Mediterranean turning into an unacknowledged war zone between migrants and security forces? The evolving causes of migration, Europe's response, and the future of the region's borders will all be examined in this deep dive of the Mediterranean's changing border security dilemma. The Mediterranean is now one of the most deadly migration routes in the world, where desperation and hope collide. Each year, hundreds of people risk everything to cross the sea in quest of a brighter future in order to escape persecution, poverty, and war. Some of them succeed while many don't. More than 27,000 individuals have perished while trying to get to Europe since 2014. Why do migrants put their lives at risk? There is still disagreement among European nations over how to respond to the crisis, which leads to inconsistent policies. But why are so many people prepared to take such chances? People leave their homes for a variety of tragic and complicated causes. 1. War and political instability. Millions of people have been displaced by war in Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, and Sudan. Many consider Europe as their only option because they lack a safe place to return to. More than 6 million people have been displaced by the Syrian civil war since 2011. Many of them have sought safety in Europe. Every year, thousands of people are forced to flee ongoing hostilities in Libya, Afghanistan, and Sudan. Mass displacement has resulted from the persecution of minorities, such as the Yazidis and Kurds. 2. Economic hardship. Many people in sub-Saharan Africa are impoverished and without access to employment possibilities. They go on risky, uncertain voyages because they hope to earn a steady income in Europe. 3. Climate change. In areas like the Sahel and East Africa, food shortages, desertification, and rising temperatures are forcing people to flee their homes, leading to an increasing number of climate refugees. 4. Persecution and oppression. In pursuit of freedom and safety, members of the LGBTQ+ community, political dissidents, and religious minorities frequently escape repressive governments. Human traffickers control the Mediterranean route, charging desperate migrants hundreds of dollars to board overloaded, unseaworthy vessels. These ships frequently lack food, water, or adequate navigational aids, leaving passengers left at sea. They are poorly built and prone to capsizing, and are overcrowded, with hundreds of people crammed into tiny fishing boats. Many people die from tiredness, drowning, or shipwrecks. Libyan coast guards frequently intercept survivors and send them back to detention camps, where they face torture, slavery, and other forms of abuse. A crisis in politics and humanitarianism. There is still disagreement among European nations over how to respond to the issue. While some support humanitarian measures, others place a higher priority on stringent border control. The outcome? A system for which there is no obvious way out, trapping refugees between the harsh sea and Europe's security measures. The Mediterranean is a representation of the injustices in our world, not just a path for migration. People will keep putting their lives in danger as long as there is injustice, poverty, and conflict. Will the world come up with a compassionate answer, or will the sea continue to take thousands of lives? To handle the Mediterranean issue, the European Union has put in place some of the most cutting-edge and contentious border security systems in the world. 1. The European Border Agency, or Frontex security operations throughout the EU, are coordinated by the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, or Frontex. Real-time detection of migrant boats is made possible by satellite tracking, AI-powered monitoring, and surveillance drones. Before ships reach the borders of Europe, they are intercepted by border guards and military ships patrolling the sea. However, Frontex has been accused of violating human rights, including ignoring distress calls, which led to thousands of preventable deaths, forcibly shoving migrant boats back into the sea, leaving people stranded working together with Libyan militias, who hold and mistreat migrants in harsh camps. 2. Italy and Greece, crisis frontline countries. The two primary ports of entry for migrants traveling across the Mediterranean are Italy and Greece. Italy's Lampedusa is a small island overrun by thousands of immigrants. Originally the site of the notorious Moria refugee camp, Lesbos, Greece, is today a representation of Europe's migration issues. Although both nations have increased border security, they also depend on aid agencies to provide refuge and rescue to migrants. The Italian Navy has conducted anti-smuggling operations, but these have frequently come under fire for forcing migrants back into hazardous situations. Greece has constructed floating barriers to block crossings, raising moral and legal questions. 3. Spain and North Africa's role. The EU's sole land borders with Africa are Spain's Ceuta and Melilla enclaves in North Africa, which makes them popular destinations for migrants. While Spain's response has been inconsistent, at times opening borders and at other times forcefully expelling migrants, Morocco and Tunisia have stepped up border enforcement, frequently with funding from European countries. The fact that migrants continue to arrive in spite of these attempts indicates that security measures are insufficient on their own. Governments prioritize border security, but the crisis's human cost is more compelling. For refugees looking for a better life, the Mediterranean has turned into a huge, unmarked graveyard. Each year, thousands of people die as a result of shipwrecks, hypothermia, or being abandoned at sea. People continue to enter despite border restrictions because staying behind frequently results in death as well. The sight of Alan Kurdi, a 3-year-old Syrian child whose lifeless body washed up on the strand after his family's boat capsized, shook the world in 2015. Unfortunately, there are many more stories like his. When a smuggler's boat sank close to Libya in 2015, more than 800 people perished. A fishing boat sank off the coast of Greece in June 2023, killing around 500 migrants. Families are left in the dark as many boats vanish without a trace. Europe's response: rescue or rejection. Sea-Watch and SOS Méditerranée are among the nonprofits fighting to help migrants, but European rules make their job more difficult. Rescue operations are criminalized by several countries on the grounds that they promote illegal migration. The EU's border agency, Frontex, uses drones to track boats, but they frequently return them to Libya, where they are subjected to sexual assault, slavery, and torture. These camps have been denounced by the UN as being unlawful and cruel. Europe maintains its support of Libya's Coast Guard in spite of this, claiming it reduces crossings. People continue to come in spite of the dangers. Migration is fueled by war, poverty, and climate change, and European policies, whether strict or lenient, cannot reverse the trend. The Mediterranean is a lethal intersection of hope and despair, not just a boundary. How many more people have to perish until a viable remedy is discovered? Experts are discussing how to strike a balance between economic, human rights, and security issues as the situation worsens. Should Europe open legal migration pathways? Mediterranean migration is still a complicated issue as of 2025, which is why governments are putting several measures into place that center on economic integration, humanitarian assistance, and security like 1. Improving surveillance and border security. In order to limit irregular migration, European countries have tightened border restrictions, citing worries about terrorism and illegal crossings. France, for example, has prolonged internal border checks until April 2025. This action is in line with a larger trend in the Schengen area, where nations are reimposing temporary border controls in reaction to demands from migration and security threats. Modern border management relies heavily on technological developments. The Smart Borders Package, which consists of programs like the Registered Traveler Program, RTP, and the Entry-Exit System, EES, is being investigated by the European Union. These programs seek to strengthen security within the Schengen area and monitor cross-border movements more closely. 2. Adopting proactive immigration regulations. Some nations have embraced more hospitable policies in recognition of the economic advantages of immigration. In order to combat low birth rates and an aging population, Spain has aggressively promoted immigration under Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. This strategy has helped Spain's economy develop at a rate of 3.2%, making it one of the fastest growing in Europe. The migration wave has lowered unemployment to its lowest level since 2008 and filled labor shortages, especially in the service industry. Third, strengthening global collaboration. Working together across national boundaries is necessary to address Mediterranean migration. Senior border officials will have a forum to discuss border and migration management policies, issues, and technical advancements during the World Border Security Congress, which will take place in Madrid in March 2025. The event, which was co-hosted by Spain's Ministry of Interior, National Police, and Guardia Civil, emphasizes how crucial international communication is to creating coordinated plans. 4. Forecasting upcoming migration patterns. According to projections, economic inequality, political unrest, and climate change will all contribute to the ongoing increase in worldwide displacement. In order to effectively manage future migrant flows, the International Center for Migrant Policy Development, ICMPD, emphasizes the necessity of creative solutions to irregular migration, stressing the significance of readiness and flexible policies. A mix of increased border security, proactive immigration laws, international collaboration, and forward-thinking tactics is being used to manage the Mediterranean migrant problem in 2025. It is still difficult to strike a balance between humanitarian obligations and security considerations, which calls for constant cooperation and flexible policymaking. A crisis without simple solutions. One of the most significant issues of our day is the Mediterranean migration catastrophe. It draws attention to the intricate connection between geopolitics, humanitarianism, and security. How can we strike a compromise between human rights and secure borders? Is it possible for Europe to resolve its migration problems without tackling global inequality? Will technology lead to more militaristic walls or smarter borders? The Mediterranean continues to be a bridge and a battlefield, influencing borders and migration for years to come, and there are no simple solutions. What are your thoughts? Should Europe prioritize humanitarian solutions or strengthen border controls? Tell us in the comments section. For more information about world concerns, remember to like, share, and subscribe.